Hey, and welcome to Slick Willy Fly. So today what we're going to do is a Magnum sized mud bug. This fly went down to Florida. The fly will actually swim like this. And unfortunately, the version that went down to Florida, the hook failed on a big redfish. So we're going to tie this on a much heavier hook and see if we can't solve that problem. So what we're going to put in the vise is a Gamakatsu, it's a 414, it's a saltwater hook in size 4.0. It's a very short shank, super heavy wire. There's literally no way that this hook is going to fail in this application. It might be very difficult to cast, but we're gonna try it. We're gonna try something new. I mean, this isn't going down to a new fly fisherman. This is going down to somebody who's an experienced fly caster. So I think they'll manage it. I think they're gonna be able to do this. So this is very new for me. I'm not going to say that I've tried this before, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to start with a little bit of copper flash, crystal flash, that I'm just going to put on the hook before I put my tail. So I'm just going to fold it over twice. And now I'm going to basically take it in about the center. And I'm going to put it near the bend of the hook. And what this is going to do is it's going to obviously give me a little bit more flash, but it's also going to stiffen up that marabou tail. Just like that. And now I can open up all my loops. You know, this is a very simple fly. Nothing complicated with this fly. Alright, so now I have a piece of brown marabou. And I mean, you can make your life easy and cut off a section of this. We're not going to use this thick stem portion. Then I generally I find that stem and I pop off just the top of that stem. And that just makes the whole feather look a little bit more like a tail. So where do I want to tie it in? I actually want to tie it in where this hook begins to bend. So I'm going to give it a couple of loose wraps just to see that I like where it's tied in. I think it's a little long. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it in a little. Now, I don't mind distributing a little bit around the hook here. And now I'm going to go ahead and crank that tight. For thread, I'm using a 100 denier. They call it an orange, but honestly, at best, it's a burnt orange. Okay. So I could take this tag off. And now I'm going to go ahead and get another strand of crystal flash going. Clean this up with my thread. Bring it back. You don't have to go all the way back. Again, I'm going to fold this in half. And now I'm going to put a little bit longer than the marabou. Half on my side of the hook, a couple of wraps, making sure I like the placement, lock that in nice and hard, careful you don't grab the point of the hook. How did I manage that, I wonder? And take the other half to the opposite side, lock it in. Make sure you like the placement. Just like that. Beautiful. Now you can either put your dumbbell eyes on, or you could put your chenille. It really, either way is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and put the dumbbell eyes. For dumbbell eyes, I'm using brass, medium size, with red eyes. And I'm staying about 1/8 of an inch from the eye of the hook, just long enough to tie off this fly. I'm going to do about 10 wraps in each direction. And then some figure eights, just to get it nice and tight, just like that. A lot of times you'll see me, I will put a little bit of super glue at that point. I'm not doing that on this fly only because I'm going to use a little bit of UV resin to lock this whole thing in. So I don't really need to. So now I'm coming in with some 15mm chenille. This is Cactus chenille colored ginger. Just going to lock it in. Bring my thread up to the dumbbell eyes. You can use the rotary function, or you can just wrap. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and just wrap the old-fashioned way, I guess. You saw me go back over. It doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to make it a little bulky. I want to give this a little bit of body. And once I'm to the dumbbell eyes, I bring my eyes back under and lock them in. Now when I cut my chenille off, I never cut on the same side as the thread. Alright, so basically the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of deer hair, because the deer hair will mask the hook, but I'm also going to put a weed guard. So I'm just going to cut a little bit of natural brown deer hair here. Don't need a ton. Taking off all the shorts like I always do. Not going to stack this because I want this to look a little ragged, or you know, not even anyway. And I'm going to just get an idea on my length. I think that's a good length right there, so I'm going to trim it, which will just make my life easier when I'm putting this on the hook. So I'm going to trim, and now I'm just going to capture behind the brass eyes. A couple of wraps, just making sure I like where it's sitting. And I do. The length looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull that tight. And a couple of wraps around the eyes. Just locking it all in. All this tag deer hair I'm going to trim off as best as I can. So I'm not too worried about the way it's looking right now. Much more concerned about this deer hair. So I'm going to come back behind it. A couple of wraps. And I like that. So now I'm going to come in with my scissors. I'm going to use a little bit more fine scissor. And I want to just trim up all this extra deer hair. Careful not to cut my thread. And once I clean up this deer hair, I'm just going to give it a couple more wraps for the color and a whip finish. Put a little UV resin on the knot, and oh, I got to put a weed guard. Forgot the weed guard. I'm gonna clean this up just a little before we put the weed guard on. All right, so for a weed guard, what do we want to do? We want to get a little bit of hard mono. And I have a little bit of hard mono right there. When I cut hard mono, I actually use the same pliers or cutters that I use when I use like bead chain or something, or cut wire. And I have this plier right here that makes a flat spot, just like that. And when I make my flat spot, I also put a bend in it, which just makes it simpler, makes it super easy to come in here, set it on the bottom of this hook, couple of wraps just to make sure I like the placement. And once I'm happy with the placement, just lock it in. Just like that. And now I could whip finish this fly and it's done. It's a super simple tie. I don't normally use this hook, so I'm very excited to get some feedback. I'm gonna put a little bit of resin on here. Super light resin. The resin is just so that the knot never comes undone, really. Perfect. There is no way that this hook is going to fail. I don't care if he hooks a tarpon. I don't care what he hooks. There's no way that this hook will open up before his leader breaks. If this fails, we need to reinvent hooks. That's a heavy, heavy hook right there. You know, the last thing you can do, and I'm probably going to do it, is this is what I'm calling the top of my fly right now is actually going to be the bottom of the fly. And I'm just going to trim a little bit of that chenille, which will help this fly sit a little better and swim a little bit more, hook up. I'm going to trim the weed guard. I trim it always a little bit, maybe long, about 1/8 of an inch longer than the hook point, just like that. And then I'm going to take some scissors and I'm going to just very gently give this a little bit of a flat spot on the bead side. That'll do it right there. Perfect. So this this fly, do I have that I can show this with? This fly I will sit in my windowsill and let Mother Nature cure it tomorrow. but it should swim hook side up, just like that. Oh, I didn't distribute. That looks better. So it should swim, it should right hook up just the way you see it. And the Marabou is obviously going to look great in the water. I maybe trim a little bit of Marabou. There's a couple here are a little too long. You notice I trimmed them individually. If you ever thought that the tail was too long, you'd never cut Marabou with a scissor. You pinch and pull, but I'm not going to do that to this fly because I think that tail's perfect. And yeah, I think that that's going to be a great fly. And again, I don't see any chance at all that a redfish or a tarpon or a snook or anything that we're fishing for in Florida. The one that failed, the hook that failed, was actually in the Indian River Lagoon, and it failed on that day. They caught 2 redfish that were getting close to 50 inches. I mean, 2 absolute monsters. So yeah, it failed on a monster, but still, it shouldn't fail. And this hook is definitely not going to fail. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and good luck catching. See you on the next video.